I like to refer to Lendified as a lending technology company. And the reason I say that is because we are not just a lender, we are an online lender, and that was effectively what we were when we started. But I use the term as a lending technology company now because effectively we're selling software in addition to actually putting loans out the door. So we're putting loans out the door, leveraging the technology, and then technology is also being sold separately. So I think holistically, we are a lending technology company. Certainly the value proposition when we built the business from its start was that the target base would be small businesses in Canada. And small businesses have different definitions depending on who you ask, but effectively these are companies that are say a couple of $1 million in revenue or less and have employees of maybe 5 to 10 employees. That sort of segment in the marketplace is a large, broad segment all across Canada, and that's been the target segment for the lending business. For the technology company, it's evolved. Originally, it was really designed to tackle the big 5 banks in Canada and to see where we could explore penetration in those organizations with our product. And we came to realize that probably a better segment target for us were slightly smaller financial institutions. So the credit unions have really become the core target in Canada. And what we're now seeing today through the evolvement of the business is that really our software can be used for any counterparty risk. So business to business, any company that takes risk on another business could in fact use the software to enhance its understanding of what that credit risk really looks like. So it's becoming quite broad. Well, you know, the whole issue of the value proposition for Lendified Inc. as a lender was effectively a frictionless experience for the customer, a relatively quick access, certainly to a decision, and hopefully for them, quick access to capital. We have certainly made the decision strategically to be a lender in Canada for the future and grow our book from existing balances today of, call it between 15 and 20 million to a $100 million business. That's totally doable. And the value of that will be that we can take those profits and contribute them towards the software development and so forth. And the strategy has really evolved in that I think we originally set our sights to be a North American lender, that the big marketplace to the south was going to be a good opportunity for us. And I think we kind of realized, and I learned this just through being a banker, that you always want to be close to the risk that you adjudicate on, if you can be. And so we sort of decided that we would stick with our roots and simply be a lender in Canada. We know the laws, we know the marketplace, we know the economic structure of the country, and we can do that a lot better than thinking about where in North America should we be putting our exposure. And so that was a relatively easy decision to come to, that we would be a domestic lender. However, the software has not so much in terms of border challenges. It's probably a little bit of an 80-20 rule where we can take that software, apply where we need local bureau or information, gather that, but the fundamentals of the model we could take to any Western market that we wanted to, really. And so it's a different strategy for the two businesses. The core IP for Lendified, very specifically, would be the ability to analyze bank statements in seconds and produce what we believe is a determined profitability of the business, and then measure that profitability against its debt obligations and determine a carrying capacity for the application that's been presented in terms of request for capital, and determine whether that debt capacity is manageable or not for the company. That all happens in seconds, and that is fundamentally the core IP. So we have millions of data points on dictionary analysis on what a bank statement line item looks like, what it means, what it represents, whether it's operating or financial, how we categorize those two differences, determine profitability from pages and pages and pages of code that comes through that in the form that the bank statement comes to us. and that's converted into that answer in seconds. That's probably the core capability. What sits around that is that in each of the different weighted contributions to our credit analysis is effectively a probability of default. And that comes from data science. The Mentio acquisition was clearly critical for us and happened at a perfect time and has been one of the best decisions that we've made in the business in terms of its growth and stability. And it fundamentally speaks to core skill sets in the management team when we started the business, which were classically long-standing credit discipline skill set, good governance skill sets, working for large institutions. That was myself and my business partner, Troy Wright. Those are great skill sets to have. And while I jokingly say that I'm one of the oldest guys operating in fintech, there are some good things to that. It builds better pedigree. It builds good culture in the organization. But what we didn't really grow up with is newer technology awareness and skill sets. And so we needed to acquire those skill sets. I sort of view it as having three legs to the stool: financial services background, data science background, and technology. Technology in the form of being able to connect and through APIs, connect and find data to bring in, and technology in the ability to actually write code and take what's in my brain in thoughts around credit process and actually code that and make it gates and make it disciplined decision making. And so Mentio brought the technology piece to us and the skill sets and the leadership to build out the teams that now sit in Lendified. What's actually quite interesting about that is that we thought that the product would be sold on the basis of its efficiency, that we could actually displace headcount, we could do all these things that would make efficiency the reason for acquiring our software or subscribing to our software. And it didn't prove to be really the case. And then we thought, well, maybe it's the credit rigor because we had built a rigorous enhancement tool through the analysis of cash flow analysis, et cetera, et cetera. And that proved to be interesting. But what really has sold it is the customer experience. What the large organizations have been thinking they need most is they've got to solve for their customer experience. And that's actually what the whole platform, which is what we call it, Lendified Technologies platform, actually serves. Because ingrained in that platform is a better customer experience of how they onboard their information, provide their information, get results, and walk away with capital in their business. The use of AI is clearly coming into our fold. And I look at it very simply, and that's just the ability to build into the decisioning that's taking place information that's proven to be valuable in the past and been applied to the future. So the probabilities that have been analyzed by the data team are moving into what I refer to as AI and artificial intelligence. But I don't really know all that's going on in that space, to be honest. But the fundamentals of simple machine learning, learning from the past and applying decisions in the past based on probabilities to the future, that we have now built in our engine. It's actually quite impressive. What did Ivey do for me? You know, Ivey has been hugely, hugely a part of my success, for whatever my success is. And the reason I sit here today and want to give back to Ivey is because of how great an institution it is and how incredible I think the education was for me, and hopefully it is still today for people in the classroom. And so, you know, over time it comes back. And now actually I enjoy some of the leadership discussion and being able to articulate views and vision and simply discuss activities in the company and where I think it's going and so forth with the team that I now have around me is wholly enjoyable. But it wasn't the same. Like Troy and I looked at each other in the mornings, 3 years ago, said, what do we do now? That's how leadership actually plays a role. It's not just about org chart. It's about how you tackle and solve issues.